Oh, how's it going, YouTube? So we're all set. Good morning, everyone. It is day 3 of our 7-day water fast. And if you're feeling it already, you probably are in ketosis. I was definitely starting to feel the keto switch around I'd probably say around 8 o'clock last night. I started getting really bloated and burpy, and that's definitely one of those signs. The most important thing to realize about today is that the body is doing a very important switch. You're transitioning from glucose in the blood, which is usually the primary source of energy for the body, being transitioned into essentially fat. So your fat now is getting broken down in the liver. It's producing ketoic acid, and it's releasing these ketone bodies throughout the bloodstream. And because of this, your hunger should be suppressed. I mean, I woke up without any appetite today. But the thing is, like most of you that have experienced ketosis before, you feel a little sick. It's hard for the body to adjust after eating like a very carb heavy diet and a lot of the proteins and processed foods that we eat. So it's kind of a weaning off process. Now, because of that, like myself, um, experienced last night, you may have a little bit of trouble sleeping. I purged in the middle of the night, which is very common for ketosis to kind of kick off because, again, a lot of those bacteria that have been using these foods these past few days die off. So you expel them, and this is an important part to understand how well you feel after that first purge. So if you're like, "Blah," and then you're like, oh, okay, cool. And you just lay back down or brush your teeth, whatever. Um, that's a great sign. That just means that you had a lot of bacteria that died off. It just needed to get kicked out because, excuse me, again, the burpiness. You may experience that a little bit in this video today. Excuse me. But it's that bacteria is not going to get digested. Your body's not going to absorb that. So you want to understand that. Like the reason why we puke and why we purge is because it's the eject button. Your body doesn't want to take in these dead, nasty things. So it's like, no, get it out. So the thing is, if you're like feeling nauseous and sick like throughout the whole day, you're honestly most likely just witnessing the what's good, people? You're honestly just witnessing the effects of the body, more so the body getting riled up. And that's one of the things that we're going to dive into today. So we've already covered some of the physiological effects in terms of what's the body's doing right now. And again, it's ketosis. So the coolest thing about this is once you're at the peak hill right now. Like once you get over this bump, you're good. It's honestly, it's going to be easy sailing for the rest of your fast. You just need to understand that this is the first day to kind of adjust energetically to what's going on. So the most important thing I recommend is take it slow. Don't exercise too much. Go for a walk. I'm probably going to take a nice little Epsom salt bath later tonight. Um, just to kind of ease into the sleep because insomnia and kind of like lack of sleep, it does impact some people on ketosis just as long, in these first few days while they're getting used to it. But the coolest thing about the bodily changes right now is you should have been losing a lot of fat. I mean, I think when I weighed myself, I lost 4 pounds. Um, so pretty intense. But again, this you got to understand the body, mainly the brain, uses a lot of energy. So when your body's, essentially eliminating this fat, that's where most of it's going. So the most important thing about today, I think, honestly, is more of the spiritual stuff. Because again, this is that hump day. This is that hurdle. This is that biggest kind of obstacle and challenge for the body. And for yourself, you have to see things as they truly are. Start talking to yourself in the truth that it is. Excuse me. In the sense that you're observing the bodily responses. Just don't talk to yourself as if, oh, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that. Be like, wow, the body's going through some transformative changes right now. It's going through some interesting happenings. And the coolest thing that you may start to observe is the separation, the lack of intimacy or attachment to certain thoughts and emotions. And I would definitely say this is the day that a lot, if not everything, just drops. So you can really just, for once, recognize the stillness and presence that we all have within us, and that this is kind of the base state of our body. This is the base state of our experience. And the thing that I want you to think about is the more you see yourself in that sense, the more you talk to yourself, the more you see as, oh, the body's, feeling a little parched. The body was feeling a little sick earlier. The more you detach that identification with the body, the easier the fast gets, especially in this day as it causes a little bit more resistance because it's like, I don't care for these changes. You got to see it like the toddler and child it is. It's just throwing a simple tantrum. And what I recommend is just meditation. So meditation, getting out in the sun, really just allowing the body to kind of just relax, a natural way. And the coolest thing about meditation in this sense is you can really start to notice the shift. You can really start to notice the silence body, and it just quiets itself. You're gaining your control back. And I think this is the coolest thing about Waterfast that it reveals to people is that if you are one of those individuals that's, you are constantly diving into your emotions and you're short fused, your head case, you're paranoid, you're sorry, we have a cat who wants to go outside. Um, you're feeling like, sluggish all the time, dull, lazy, all the stuff. Like a lot of those things naturally just kind of drop because more than likely, a lot of it's because the food you're eating. And this is the day where you really take the reins back and you can allow yourself to do so, or you can kind of give into the thoughts and it's going to be a very miserable experience. I don't really know what else to say with that one because it's life is how you see it. Life is how you see it, folks. So if you accept this challenge humbly, you go, "Oh, hey, body, I see you're enjoying ketosis." Or you just dismiss the body as my personal preferences. You just dismiss the body. Just do you. You have a thing to do. Just will it to be done. And it responds. It falls in line because mind over matter. That's something that you always need to kind of remind yourself is that you're capable of a lot. Now, one thing I should clarify about today is because your body's going into ketosis. I personally haven't had any salt yet. I'm trying to do a pure water fast with nothing else. Ugh, I had a hair in my mouth. I'm sitting on like our cat's favorite chair, so not surprising. Um, But the thing is, if you need a little bit of salt, have some. If you're feeling really sick and achy, have a little bit of salt. You don't necessarily need it today, but again, you're going through ketosis. Your body's going to be going through a change. You have to understand that it's just switching gears. A lot of the achiness and grogginess and sickness you may feel will primarily just be in the morning. Honestly, it's like the first 3 hours from waking up, and then you'll be like, "Well, I feel fine." And again, it's very much so like that tantrum aspect. It's the child within you is, as the body it is at this point now where it's like, I don't like this. I don't care. I don't care. But then all of a sudden, like most children, they're adaptable. So when it happens, you hit that switch and then it's coasting, it's smooth sailing. So the coolest thing that I really want to try to give you a little insights for what's to come in this fast is you're gonna start to notice your focus and your energy levels. Um, will increase drastically, pretty dramatically, depending on essentially how much you embrace and accept the fast. So, the coolest thing about this is you have to think your body uses a lot of energy for the brain, yes, but it also uses a lot of energy for digestion. And considering most of us are eating multiple meals a day, you don't really give the GI tract a break, it's working 24/7 for the most part, maybe 18 hours. But there's always food being processed in it. So the key here is when you stop investing all that energy into the food, it starts to go for everything else. So tomorrow, depending on how you're feeling, and especially day 5 and beyond, you're okay to work out. Um, I'm definitely gonna do more of calisthenics this week, so, like, ring work, dip bars, that type of stuff, like parallettes, doing all those types of things, but weights, all that will work. You can do a lot of I wouldn't recommend doing a lot of cardio, to be honest with you, because 'cause you're already gonna be burning a lot of fat naturally, but again, this is the day where it's like you're going through the most changes, you can embrace it or you can reject it. And the two approaches to this fast is really going to determine how it goes for you. And I always recommend just embrace it. Just embrace the fast, baby. It's one of those things that you're gonna feel like shit. Like, I can't lie to you. Like, you're gonna feel like shit in the very beginning of it because, especially if you're not used to it, because again, the body's going through a change it didn't ask for. And I think that's one of the reasons why maybe today that compared to most fasts, I feel probably better is the fact that I did want this And again, it's that mindset, it's your approach to it, it's that challenge, it's that experiment. And ultimately, you know yourself. So you have to really recognize, is this what I'm really capable of? Or am I able to do more? And again, bring yourself back to the purpose. When you find yourself in challenging moments, always try to bring yourself back to the purpose of why. It doesn't matter if it's a water fast or life. Whenever you put yourself in that humbling position of your truth, wanting to be a better person, wanting to lose weight so you can live longer and be around your loved ones longer, wanting to live a better health and a healthier lifestyle so you can help those in need. It doesn't really matter. Again, I said the family stuff, the loved ones, and a lot of those are good in terms of the external sources and motivations. But again, the most important thing is you remember the purpose, that you're here to love you. You're here to treat yourself with the respect and the accountability to push yourself, to challenge yourself, to continually build upon your skills and correct your wrongs and weaknesses. And Waterfast reveal a lot of that, because you're going to have moments where you're really pinned to confront yourself, because it's the body is going to whine. And if you haven't fasted before, and if you're interested in spirituality and you're just really getting into it, it's going to be fussy, because it's going to be essentially life saying, put your money where your mouth is. And that's kind of a surreal thing for a lot of people, because for the most part, a lot of people aren't put in that position of having to be accountable for themselves or having to be responsible for themselves. And this is a challenge for yourself. This is something just for you. And again, it's that position of love. It's that position of light and growing and being better and doing more than what you're capable of and what you think you're capable of, that is going to be the most rewarding thing for you. Because as you grow, and as you kind of push this bubble and pop these bubbles of known and enter into these new realms of unknown, you continually just unfold within yourself. And oh, well, I didn't think that was real, and I did that. Oh, I didn't think that was possible, and I did that. Oh, I didn't think that was possible again. It's like you constantly kind of remind yourself, whoa, I thought this was true, and it clearly wasn't. Well, what else isn't true? And that's the cool thing about life, is that it's this game of exploration. And when you participate in things like Waterfast, you give yourself the opportunity to really put that to the test, to really push yourself in your knowing. Because, you know, I'll be getting into it later on, but breatharianism, or being a breatharian, is something that is possible. There's people that do it. Like, there's been numerous cases throughout the world of people going beyond the no food and water for 3 days, and they're fine. There's actually a wise man, a sage, a yogi in India, and I can't remember what school it was, but they did a test because he hasn't eaten or drinking water for like decades, and his motivation was, he talked to essentially a goddess in his dream, and they were like, "Ugh," another hair there. And she was like, "You're not going to be drinking or eating water the rest of your life." And he was like, "Okay." And he didn't. So when the school was looking at him, they're like, "He doesn't go to the bathroom. What is going on here?" They actually did an ultrasound on his bladder, and his bladder expands like everyone else as it processes things, but kind of at the end of the day and at night, it essentially reabsorbs the urine and breaks it back down. So he's not wasting any water, he's not taking in any water, and if he is taking in any water, he says he feels it more on his skin. So it's like wild stuff when you really look into it. There's people that have been, recorded throughout history that do these things, and especially in our Western world, we have such a oligarchical control of our society that the corporations have heavily influenced the Western sciences, or as I like to see them, the modern day church. And people adhere to it blindly. They listen to it blindly. And, I haven't heard so many people, you know, talk to me. And mind you, I have a science background. I was a bio major, I worked in the pharmaceutical industry. It's kind of like my favorite thing to nerd out on, is just read studies and different papers. But it's one of those things where it's like, when I became vegetarian almost like 5, 6 years ago now, I can't tell you how many people tried to tell me like how I was going to be protein deficient. Even when I do more veganism and fruitarianism and stuff like that, like people are so certain that they know exactly what's going on as they blindly eat themselves into death, into an early death. So I think the most important thing here is always just to remember that you're pushing the barriers of what is known and you're entering into realms of the unknown. And the highest form of knowledge is experiential. So when you're going through these water fast, don't listen to hate, don't listen to people who doubt you. If you know you're around toxic, negative people like that, don't even hang around with them. Just do you, because that stuff you're gonna be a little bit more aware of it. Because especially at more so day 4 when it really starts to kick in, but depending on how you are in your fast right now, you may start noticing more of the subtle energies, and that's something that you'll pick up on and be more sensitive to, like negativity, people being toxic, people being angry, people being sad. You're gonna be able to feel a little bit more because the most important thing to see is that your inner environment naturally by not consuming the fire cheese we covered yesterday, by different foods that you're consuming, you're not taking on their karmic debt. So a lot of that internal emotional chatter will drop, and when you really detach and distance yourself from the body, same thing, these types of pains and kind of like that feedback from the body being sick and stuff is going to drop and fade away. And when there's nothing left to kind of distract you internally, you're finally left to feel out your own inner space as the still kind of vast nothingness that it is. And within that space, that's when you can really kind of feel out things, see out things, feel other people, feel other things, see things. This may be a day where you start to see auras on people and trees and things like that, primarily maybe day 4, but allow yourself to really sink into yourself during this day of fasting. And ultimately, just know that you got to stay busy, do something to keep yourself active. I mean, like walking, reading. Today is definitely a lounge day. So for me, it's a lot of football, doing some light work, reading, just hanging out, kicking it. So again, I'm probably going to take a little nice hot bath later today, but I'm going to take a nice I can't necessarily call it tea, but I'm just going to have some warm water to change up the temperature of what I've been drinking the past few days. So it's been Peter from Full Spectrum Performance. I hope you have an awesome Sunday, a day of rest. And realistically, I hope you try this water fasting method. Maybe not a full 7 days, but 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, and just kind of push yourself because the benefits of this are so magical. I mean, that's the only way I can say it. Like my skin's cleared up. I noticed I had like a little zit or two, and it just like went away last night, and I woke up without it. Like it's cold and the window's open, and I didn't wake up ashy. Like my skin's already starting to conserve hydrogen and be like, no, we don't have time to be dry, yo. Like so. Just the last note is again. This is a wild time and transformational time for the body, or transformative time because it's in conservation mode. It doesn't have it's a very much like the body's I ain't got time for that today. So things that you start to see like skin things, maybe different more bodily issues, like especially the inflammatory responses like achy joints and bones, like all that stuff's going to drop because the body doesn't have time to waste. It doesn't have energy to waste. So relax, experience this, and ultimately have a great day. I love you, and I hope you join me on the water fast tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. Bye. Have a good one. Peace.